The top stories tonight in Y News. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vows to address smuggling and hoarding of agricultural products. The Philippine National Police deploys tracker team to find former Bureau of Corrections Director General Gerald Bantag and Deputy Security Officer Ricardo Zulueta. The provincial government of Albay questions the evacuation of thousands of residents in the towns of Santo Domingo and Ginubatan as they were not covered by the Mayon Volcano 6-kilometer permanent danger zone. And the United Nations says Russia has blocked entry of humanitarian aid for flood-affected communities in southern Ukraine. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, the 20th of June, 2023. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media channels. I am William Theo. First in the news, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said that there is progress in the fishing talks between the Philippines and China, despite recent reports of Filipino fishermen being blocked by Chinese vessels off Pag-asa Island. In an ambush interview, the president was asked for an update on the fishing talks between Manila and Beijing amid the concerns of local fishermen and the latest incident where a Chinese military vessel tailed the government's BRP Francisco Dagohoy. PBBM said, unlike before, the Chinese vessel just tailed the Philippine vessel. He said when he met with Chinese President Xi Jinping this year, he focused on the issue of fisheries instead of the territorial dispute involving the West Philippine Sea.
Yung latest na report ay sinundan na lang. Hindi na kagaya ng dati na talagang hinaharang. So there's a little progress there. Kaya actually ang BIFAR merong projection na lalaki ang huli because nabawasan nga yung nabigyan ng pagkakataon ng ating mga farmers.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. recognized the challenges facing the agriculture sector. According to the president, the government still needs to address the problem in food supply. Nel Maribuhok reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vowed to address smuggling and hoarding of agri products. According to the president, this is part of the measures of the government to improve the agriculture sector.
Yung mga simpleng problema na hinarap natin, mga rice smuggling, sugar smuggling, onion smuggling, yan. Titigil natin ng yan. Gagawin namin lahat para matigil yan. Yung hoarding.
He added that his administration will focus on increasing the productions in agriculture to stabilize the prices of goods.
The best way to improve, first of all, availability and to keep the prices down is to have a good level of production na hindi tayo nabibiktima na tinatawag na imported na inflation.
In his speech during the 125th founding anniversary of the Department of Agriculture, the president said that the agriculture sector will always be an important contributor to the nation's economy, noting that it should continuously be developed for the country to develop. He pointed out that the country must adapt and use the latest technologies and best practices that will not only boost nation's productivity and quality of life, but will also open more doors to investments. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, will conduct a mall voting simulation on July 15, 2023. The venues will be in SM Manila, Robinson's Place Manila, Robinson's Galleria in Cebu City, and SM Legazpi in Legazpi City, Albay. This effort is part of the preparations for the 2023 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, or BSKE. The COMELEC said mall voting will be conducted near the area of the of voters. Public consultations had been conducted to determine the sentiments of the residents. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice clarified that the reward money for the money information on former Bureau of Corrections Chief Gerald Bantag and former Bucor Security Officer Ricardo Zulueta will be given upon their request. Dante Amento tells us why.
Department of Justice or DOJ Secretary Crispin Rimulya revealed there was a miscommunication over the reward money they will be giving on the information of former Bureau of Corrections or Bucor Chief Gerald Bantag and former Security Officer Ricardo Zulueta. Rimulya explained there is no need for successful prosecution or conviction of the accused before they will give the money. They will hand over the amount after the arrest of Bantag and Zulueta. The informant will not need to participate in the prosecution.
Hindi. Basta't nahuli dahil sa impormasyon na ibinigay upang mahuli ang mga isasakdal natin sa korte, ang reward po, ang pabuya ay ibibigay na sa mga nagbigay ng impormasyon. At ang problema po sa pagdemanda, sa prosecution mismo, sa pag-uusig ng kaso, at ay nasa amin po sa DOJ. Kami po, sa amin po ang prosecutors na bahala ng magpanalo ng kaso.
The DOJ offers 2 million pesos for information on the whereabouts of Bantag and 1 million pesos for Zulueta. The DOJ chief added the two accused are still in the country. They are wanted over the killing of broadcaster Percy Lapid and inmate June Villamor. Meanwhile, the lawyers of Bantag and Zulueta refused to comment on the DOJ's offer of a cash reward. Attorney Lauro Gacayan, Zulueta's lawyer, said the DOJ can add more bounty if they want. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police Tracker Team is now deployed to find former Bureau of Corrections Director General Gerald Bantag and Deputy Security Officer Ricardo Zulueta. PNP spokesperson Police Colonel Jean Fajardo said that the PNP is expecting to receive information on Bantag and Zulueta's whereabouts following the reward offered by the Department of Justice. Leah Ilagan details why.
The Philippine National Police welcomes the Department of Justice offer of a 3 million pesos reward for information that could lead to the arrest of former Bureau of Corrections or Bucor Chief Gerald Bantag and Deputy Security Officer Ricardo Zulueta. PNP spokesperson Police Colonel Jean Fajardo said that the PNP is expecting to receive more information in the coming days about the whereabouts of the two former Bucor officials.
On the part of the PNP po ay umaasa po kami na ito pong reward na pinapush po ng DOJ will convince and encourage po yung mga tao na maaari na alam po yung posibleng pinakokoonan po nitong dalawang suspects.
Colonel Fajardo also confirms that the tracker team of the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group is now deployed to find Bantag and Zulueta.
Ang CIDG po ay nag-create na po ng tracker teams at immediately po nung lumabas po yung dalawang warrants of arrest against these personalities po ay yung ating pong mga tracker teams ay nagda-double time po para i-confirm po yung mga nare-receive po nating reports ng kanilang mga possible whereabouts. And as we speak po ay patuloy po yung ginagawa pong manhunt operation po ng hindi lamang po ng CIDG pati na rin po yung ibang unit po natin.
The PNP also believes that the two former officials are still in the country. Bantag and Zulueta are facing murder charges before the Muntinlupa and Las Piñas trial courts in connection with the killing of Percival Mabasa or Percy Lapid and Cristito Palana Villamor last year. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
For our news abroad, the United Nations says Russia has blocked entry of humanitarian aid for flood-affected communities in southern Ukraine, including Russian-occupied areas. Marby Delphine tells us why, live. Good evening, Marvy.
Good evening, Kathy. Despite the severe humanitarian impact of the flood caused by the dam blast, the Kremlin has declined United Nations' request for aid access. In a statement, United Nations or UN Humanitarian Coordinator for Ukraine, Denise Brown, called out the Russian Federation government to act in accordance with their obligations under international humanitarian law, reminding that aid cannot be denied to civilians in need. Brown vowed that the UN's relief efforts will continue to press on given the devastation that resulted from the environmental disaster. The Kakhovka Reservoir, which is one of the largest in Europe, is reportedly now 70% empty, leaving thousands of people without access to potable water. According to figures disclosed yesterday by Ukrainian Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko, 18 people have died and 31 are missing due to the dam breach, while more than 850 settlements and houses are still flooded. Moscow, on the other hand, reported 35 deaths in territories under temporary military control. More than 11,000 people have been evacuated on both sides. In response to the UN complaint, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov defended the decision, saying it was motivated by security concerns because of the war fighting and other nuances. Russia has blamed Ukraine for the dam's demise, while Kyiv has accused Moscow of the explosion to thwart its counteroffensive. Back to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Marvy Delphin, reporting live from Australia. A historic moment. The Australian Parliament has approved to hold a referendum on Indigenous rights. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese pushes the Voice referendum and regarded it as a moment of national unity and a chance to make Australia even greater. Mavian Dog will tell us why.
The 2023 Australian Indigenous Voice referendum will ask Australians if the Constitution should be altered to include a voice to represent Indigenous Australians in national policy making. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is urging Australians to take part in the referendum, to vote yes and be part of making history. The Indigenous Voice to Parliament, if passed, will recognise Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders in the Constitution for the first time, and will allow the government to consult them on laws affecting their communities. In order to pass this referendum, the government has to gather double majority. That said, more than 50% of voters nationwide and a majority of voters in 4 of the 6 states should support the change. Meanwhile, some have expressed opposition to the Voice, including independent senator and prominent Indigenous activist Lydia Thorpe, calling it a powerless advisory body that is all about appeasing white guilt. Aboriginal Australians make up about 3% of Australia's population, with 1/3 living below the poverty line. Mavian Dog, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, William.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The provincial government of Albay criticized the evacuation of thousands of residents in the towns of Santo Domingo and Ginubatan as they were not covered by the Mayon volcano's 6-kilometer permanent danger zone. Some residents reasoned out that they have volunteered to evacuate due to the fear of the volcano's continuous high activity. Alan Manansala will tell us why.
The provincial government of Albay has inquired Mayor Joseling Aguas Jr. of Santo Domingo and Mayor Chino Garcia of Ginubatan to explain why they need to evacuate the residents living outside the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone of the volcano. According to Albay Governor Edsel Greco, at least 44% of the evacuees in the 2 towns are not from the 6-kilometer PDZ. 377 families or equivalent to 2,972 individuals are from Ginubatan and 1,688 families or equivalent to 5,473 individuals are from Santo Domingo, Albay.
There is no science behind their actions. Ngayon, ang problema na tayo how to sustain this response effort. So I think talagang kailangan magkaroon kami ng meeting at the soonest possible time para ma-justify nila yung kanilang actions.
Governor Lagman sent the letters about the inquiry to the two mayors yesterday. And if no sufficient reason will be provided why they were evacuated outside the PDZ, according to Governor Lagman, the evacuees should be sent home first. Mayor Joseling Aguas Jr. of the town of Santo Domingo previously said that the evacuation of some residents from Barangay Lidong, which is still covered by the 7-kilometer permanent danger zone, was their voluntary decision and also due to the fear of the high activity being shown by Mount Mayon.
Unang-una, out of fear na, no? Alam mo po kasi pag gabi, kung nandito ka sa Santo Domingo, ako nga ho, nasa 10 kilometers ako, but I always hear rumbling sounds eh. So, pag gabi ho, tumitingin din sila sa Mayon, makikita ko yung lava flows. And ang lava flows ko kasi halos harap ng Barangay Lidong eh. So, kala mo po papunta na dito. So, I think it's out of fear na rin ang ating mga kababayan.
This is also the justification of some residents who have voluntarily evacuated. Some residents of Purok Sais, Barangay Lidong, Santo Domingo, Albay, justified their voluntary evacuation due to the high activity of the Mayon volcano.
Natakot na rin po kami. Kaya naglikas na rin po kami dahil para sa anak ko rin po yun.
Hindi muna kasi nag-ano ang bukid eh. Baka bumigla. Mahirap kung gabi yun pumunta kung gabi di. Matataranta kami ng mga bata. Yun ang mahirap.
Bumigla ang baga, paano? Saan kami pupunta? Mga bata o mga maliliit pa. Hindi naman pwede, sir. Ang isip ko, sa parte ko, sir, kung bigyan kami sa lamit, kung hindi pasensya.
Meanwhile, Mayor Chino Garcia stood by his decision.
Huwag munang babalik doon because may mga signs ng ashfalls and naririnig nila ang activity sa taas ng Mayon, yung mga falling rocks, yung mga parang naglilindol, and, yung amoy ng asupre. So, yun ang kinakatakot nila, lalong-lalo na sa mga bata.
Previously, our news team exclusively accompanied the Office of the Civil Defense Region 5 and the Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office of Ginubatan during the site inspection in the 6.5-kilometer danger zone. Alan Manansala, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Metro Manila Regional Peace and Order Council will suggest to Metro Manila mayors to conduct a systematic enlistment process of reservist recruitment. JP Nunez will tell us why.
San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora, who is also the chairperson of the Metro Manila Regional Peace and Order Council, wants to tap local government units in Metro Manila to conduct enlistment for reservists. According to him, he will present the idea from the Metro Manila mayors and discuss possible guidelines on how they will implement the recruitment. But his idea is that interested individuals will have to go to City Hall to have their names listed on what agency they want to serve as reservists, such as Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Ang city government po mag-facilitate para po sa kanilang pagpasok into the reservists. And why are we doing this? Because one, gusto namin magkaroon ng inventaryo ng aming manpower.
Mayor Zamora emphasized the need for reservists, especially during calamities and in times of war.
Mahirap yung maghahanap ka pa lang kapag nandyan na yung gera o nandyan na yung sakuna. No? Maganda ahead of time ay alam mo ng impormasyon na to at you can call on them at any point that they need to help out their city or Metro Manila for that matter.
Based on the framework, a joint task force from PNP and AFP will be the one to supervise, conduct training, and deploy those who will be trained as reservists. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health, or DOH, is set to launch the bivalent COVID-19 vaccines tomorrow, June 21, at the Philippine Heart Center. The said vaccines are the ones donated by the Lithuanian government. The country has received around 390,000 donated doses of bivalent COVID-19 vaccines, which were distributed to the DOH Center for Health Development. This first batch of bivalent COVID-19 vaccines, according to the DOH, will be given first to healthcare workers and senior citizens who had their second booster shot 4 to 6 months ago. People in vulnerable sectors, such as the elderly and those with previous diseases, have a greater possibility of being infected by the new COVID-19 Omicron FE.1 subvariant. According to health experts, common symptoms are similar to previous Omicron variants, such as cough, cold, flu, and body pain. Infectious diseases expert Dr. Ronchin Solante stated that the immunity of the elderly decreases further 4 to 6 months after the vaccination of the COVID-19 jabs. He added that the positivity rate in NCR has dropped by 7.2%. The utilization rate has also dropped to less than 25%, and ICU occupancy has decreased to less than 20%. Earlier today, the Department of Health recorded the first case of COVID-19 Omicron FE.1 subvariant in the country. But according to experts, the public doesn't need to panic because the variant of concern is under monitoring by the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control.
It may not be totally different as those XBB. So most likely it can still cause severe infection, but only for those who are highly vulnerable, like the elderly population. And mostly these are very mild, and most of the time, especially pag mga younger population, hindi kailangan gamutin at hindi magpo-proceed doon sa severe form of infection.
Meanwhile, the Philippine Weather Bureau PAGASA assures the public that the water level in Angat Dam is still sufficient to supply the domestic use for Metro Manila. Meanwhile, PAGASA is needing hundreds of personnel to man the newly installed stations in the country. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The water level of Angat Dam this morning is at 185.89 meters. This is more than 3 meters higher compared to the rule curve level, which means that it can operate normally with the current demand. Dr. Esperanza Kayanan, the OIC Administrator of PAGASA, said that even during years with El Nino, the water levels of dams can still recover in the month of July. This means that there is no need yet for cloud seeding operations.
So may nakikita pa po tayo na posibilidad na mga bagyo at mga pagulan ng habagat.
The Filipino Weather Bureau PAGASA advised the public to conserve water and take advantage of the rainy season to store like in impounding areas. Meanwhile, PAGASA is in need of 700 personnel to fill different positions in the agency as part of their modernization program. Dr. Kayanan said that DBM already approved the initial 125 plantilla positions, but they have not been released yet. PAGASA is currently developing the new impact-based forecasting and warning system, which has pilot areas in Metro Manila and Metro Cebu. This system will provide more detailed information to the public on how a cyclone can affect their areas.
Mas madali nang maintindihan ng mga tao pag sinabi mong babaha or magkaka-landslides, hindi mo na kailangang ipaliwanag ng matagal sa kanila.
However, once the project is completed, additional personnel will still be needed.
Ang isa pang kailangan namin support is wala po kasing additional personnel na tututok for this additional tasks sa ngayon. Kaya yung mga assignment ngayon ng mga forecasters nadagdagan. So, hindi pa po ginagrant sa amin yung additional personnel na naka-propose doon sa modernization.
UNTV is awaiting the response from DBM. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Fish production in the West Philippine Sea dropped by 7% last year compared to 2021. According to data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, it decreased from 295,332 metric tons of fish in 2021 to 275,872 metric tons last year. To address this problem, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, will launch a project called Layag West Philippine Sea, or Livelihood Activities, to enhance fisheries yield and economic gains for the West Philippine Sea. The agency will allocate almost 80 million pesos in funds for this program this year. It aims to strengthen the production of our country's fisheries in the West Philippine Sea. BFAR will distribute boats, payaws, lampcad, various fishing equipment, fisheries post-harvest equipment, and fuel subsidy to fishing boats.
Ang Layag WPS po or Layag West Philippine Sea project ay isa po itong inisyatiba ng pamahalaan na maglaan ng mga proyekto, tutukan ang West Philippine Sea pagdating po doon sa pagpapayabong ng ating fisheries production. So bahagi po ng proyektong ito ang pagbibigay natin ng iba't ibang livelihood inputs doon sa mga mangisda along the West Philippine Sea belt po, no, yung mga lalawigan na nakaharap sa West Philippine Sea.
United States President Joe Biden said U.S.-China relations are on the right trail following Secretary of State Antony Blinken and President Xi Jinping's meeting. Annie Mancillo will give us the details live. Good evening, Annie.
Good evening, Kathy. Both Biden and Xi hailed progress as Blinken concluded his two-day trip to Beijing, the first engagement since 2018. The top U.S. diplomat and the Chinese leader both emphasized the importance of stabilization, as any conflict between the world's two largest economies would cause global disruption. Blinken acknowledged that the progress was not straightforward, but U.S. officials hoped that this visit would pave the way for more bilateral meetings. Additionally, Blinken noted that both parties have a responsibility to manage their relationship. However, despite the agreement to settle the rivalry, the presence of a major breakthrough for both countries is still to be confirmed. China did not welcome Washington's bid to recommence military-to-military communication channels due to the sanctions imposed by U.S. The two sides also appeared firm in their views on trade, the chip industry, human rights, Taiwan's independence, as well as the Russia-Ukraine war. Biden and Xi's last meeting was during 2022's G20 summit in Indonesia in November. Since then, ties have deteriorated even more so after a suspected Chinese spy balloon was detected in U.S. airspace, resulting in a postponement of Blinken's trip back in February. Back to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Annie, for that live report. A massive search and rescue effort is underway to find the missing submersible that had lost its contact while on tour to the wreckage of the Titanic. The tourist submersible Titan has 5 people on board, including the pilot and 4 mission specialists, for an 8-day expedition to see the Titanic up close. However, communications with the underwater vessel stopped approximately 1 hour and 45 minutes into the vessel's dive, according to the Coast Guard. OceanGate, the company that operates the expedition, said the submersible has safety features, but it has limited power reserves. Admiral John Mauger, commander of the U.S. Coast Guard's 1st District, said it has 4 days of emergency capability, and the search and rescue team is doing everything they can to locate the missing submersible.
So we're working very closely at this point to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to locate the submersible and rescue those on board. Our thoughts are with the crew members and the families of those on board the submersible.
Muggers said they have coordinated with the Canadian Coast Guard and Canadian Army for additional assets. Two P-8 planes that use sonar for locating submarines, C-130 aircraft for conducting aerial search, and commercial ships with one were also deployed in the scene. OceanGate is also assisting in the search and said they were exploring and mobilizing all options to bring the crew back safely. Those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Kathy Navarro, live from Vietnam. Good evening.
The Philippine football national team Ascals was defeated by Chinese Taipei in their FIFA friendly match yesterday. Despite this, the Philippine Ascals remained positive, stating that this experience will greatly contribute to the improvement of the team. Rina Villamor Camara has this report.
After taking down Nepal in the FIFA friendlies last week, the Ascals are all geared up to battle against Chinese Taipei here at the Rizal Sports Stadium. Coach Michael Wise is expecting a stronger performance from the boys to be able to compensate to a more compact and quick team of Taiwan. Chinese Taipei could be a handful to the Ascals, hence Coach Michael Wise expects the boys to play in a more offensive way, apply a pressing style, and push the ball more forward to create more opportunities and chances for the Ascals to come up with a goal. It was around 6:10 p.m. when the two teams started with their warm-up as the crowds filled up the stadium. Part of the Ascal starters were Neil Etheridge, who wasn't able to play the last time around, Enrique Linares, Mike Ott, Sandro Reyes, and Harvey Gayoso. Meanwhile, part of the starting 11 for Chinese Taipei were Wen Chipan, Xiao Chifeng, Rui Wang, Emilio Esteves, and Yen Shuwu, headed by British coach Gary White, who has been with the team since 2017. At almost 2 minutes of action, Chinese Taipei, through Yen Shuwu, gave their country their first solid goal, to which Mike Ott responded back, giving the Philippines team its first goal at the 13-minute mark of action. Both teams are showing aggressiveness, not wanting for the opponent to get a chance with the ball. At the 30 minutes of action, it's 1-1 for both the Philippines and Chinese Taipei. And not even the heavy rain could stop the Pinoy fans from cheering on and supporting the Ascals. On the second half, a substitution took place as Harvey Gayoso was replaced by FEU midfielder Gio Pabualan. The Taiwanese squad took so many attempts, but goalkeeper Neil Etheridge had some good saves to stop them from taking advantage. It took until the 57th minute of action for Taiwan to get their second goal, with player Yao Xingyu contributing big for the team. Another attempt for Taiwan was blocked by Etheridge at the 73rd minute mark of action, while the 3,758 fans in attendance stood up to cheer the word Pilipinas. Just before the final time ended, Ming Wenlin made a surprising goal for Chinese Taipei, giving them the 3-2 lead in this campaign. Taiwan coach Gary White spoke about his thoughts on this game.
It was a very fast-paced game, end to end, and I think we came out the deserved winners today. The players never gave up. We knew at half-time it was going to be difficult for Philippines to stay with us, so we waited, we were patient. And it worked out today, but it was a great game to be involved in.
Meanwhile, Coach Michael Wise talked about his optimism about his players.
This is one very positive thing that we can draw from this match, that we found a young, good defender who can really seriously help us with more games coming and playing in Southeast Asia.
Rina Villamor Camara, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And before we close, we will leave you with the word giving glory to God from the book of Romans chapter 6 verse 22. It says, "But now being made free from sin and become servants to God, ye have your fruit unto holiness, and the end everlasting life." And those are the reasons behind the news, June 20, 2023. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold, and because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.